Okay, so I have a hypothesis and then some speculation. So let's deal with the hypothesis first. This is what I have observed in 30-odd years of doing this, that rural areas are rural areas irrespective of where you are. The problems are the same. Governments are governments irrespective of where you are. Governments have a limited number of solutions that they can come up with, and they're the same everywhere. What differs is the context. So you have to understand the context. And that's why the site visits are important, because the site visits are the way that you understand the context. That's get from a desk work. But you can't get the context without having that in there. Because the context tells you the rankings of the problems and suggests why particular strategies were chosen and other strategies weren't chosen. So this context is crucial in understanding rural policy. So good policy lies in understanding the context. Okay. So this is a series of slides that will say, what does mine mean for Canada, and then a little pithy thing underneath that is supposed to catch your attention and then an explanation. So everybody wants to use tourism as the big rural development engine. Every place the OECD has been, every conference I go to, everybody talks about rural tourism as the future of rural areas. And nobody really thinks this through. It doesn't pay well, it's seasonal, and it's subject to whims. You can have a hot place one year, and then people don't want to go there anymore because it's not cool to go there. So it's an incredibly unstable situation. There's too many firms in each rural place offering the same experience. We saw this in Quebec. Everybody wants to do the same thing because their neighbor's doing it, and it's easy to mimic them. But then you got market saturation, and then every region is doing the same thing. So there's not enough strategic thinking about tourism in rural areas. And without strategic thinking, without some effort to differentiate your product, without some effort to put together a package of different types of things so that you're selling more than one experience, it's not going to work. Because none of these places are destinations. It's not like Disney World. It's not even like Niagara Falls, where there's some big feature that draws people and you can build upon it. You've got to create the demand. And you can't create the demand by every farmer in the district having a snowmobile and taking people to rides. That's not going to work. Okay. So next. Renewable energy. I think renewable energy is a risky proposition for the following reasons. It's all going to be in rural areas. You know, it's hard to think of a renewable energy that doesn't take place in rural areas, but you know, in the last year, the price of natural gas has dropped by half in North America because they now know how to fracture shale. And the reserves in North America have gone up by a huge amount, and that sets a new ceiling on energy prices. And a whole lot of renewables don't make sense now, at least for the next 10 years, because firms aren't going to pay more than the market price of the alternative, which is natural gas, and governments like Ontario can jack it into the average price, but all they'll do is destroy their economic base. So you have to understand that it's not, you can't sell something at too high a price. And what we saw from Copenhagen, I'm afraid, is that there's lots of rhetoric about climate change. You need to do something, but no will to actually bite the bullet. So it's going to be tricky pushing this renewable agenda. And the other thing that's really crucial is that you can put generation anywhere, but the thing that nails you is building the transmission lines. If you don't build the transmission lines, you've got locked-in power. I was in Iceland in November. Iceland can generate electricity for nothing from geothermal. Trouble is, there's no demand for it. Iceland is 95% green power from geothermal and hydro. But you've got 300,000 people, and there's only so many aluminum smelters that you can put in Iceland. And you've got gigawatts of power that you can't develop because there's no place to use it. Without transmission, none of this works. The last part is that I have yet to go to a place that doesn't see itself as the leader in renewable energy in terms of technologies, manufacturing. And if everybody gears this up, where are the markets and where are the profit margins? So it's going to become a cutthroat industry. And first movers will have an advantage, but it won't be as big an advantage as they think. Okay, next. Immigration. I think immigration is a really interesting story for rural areas. Well, in every OECD country, any growth in population comes from immigrants. Immigrants largely settle in urban areas. And, what are rural areas? Rural areas sell themselves as encapsulating the history of a country and the traditions. Yet you think, in a multicultural country, in Canada, that history has no resonance with people who are from a different environment. The same thing's happening in England. England's finding that